OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Delighted to say we are now joined by the former Galway manager Kevin Walsh. Kevin, nicely set up there by Sean, mentioning 2018 when you were in charge for that win against Kerry in the Super 8. He's saying that the players now, those who are involved, should take a certain amount of confidence from having got a championship win against the Kingdom back 4 summers ago.
Yeah, look, I suppose it was kind of I think it was the first championship win since the 60s, so that was massive. And again, you know, the under-20s came through then. We had a very fancy team in 2020, and they also beat Kerry unexpected. So the last 4 or 5 years have been good to Galway, including the league win down in Tralee as well. So look, it certainly should, I suppose, how do you say, to give them confidence that they can beat this Kerry team.
Did that play in mind at all going into 2018? Where you talk about the long championship run where Kerry had dominated from the final in 65 right through to that win in 2018. Was that ever on the mind or anything that was talked about, like basically how long Galway had been waiting for a win?
I would, of course, yeah. I mean, you can't avoid that, especially with the social media now. And all the facts and figures are always thrown out there. And, you know, I suppose even where Galway are concerned, it was more than that at the time. It was more that we had the big championship win since 2001, and the hoodoo of Croke Park. Everything was big for that match in 2018. You know, that was a Super 8 match as well, and it was, you know, the top 2 teams came out of a very difficult group. So, you know, we had Monaghan and Kildare at the time. So, and I've actually qualified early, and that group with Kerry involved was huge. And it also, you know, as I said, it was not only the Kerry hoodoo, it was the Croke Park hoodoo, and it was a kind of, sometimes hoodoos are made too much of. But certainly where Kerry are concerned, back to the 60s is quite a while. So that was huge to get over that line.
Has a stake been driven into the heart of that idea of the Croke Park issue now? Because every time that Galway were preparing to go to Croke Park in recent years, it's been, it's only so many wins since 2001, and there's so many defeats have happened. And even after the league final defeat, the late collapse against Roscommon earlier this year, people were mentioning that Galway have got a very poor record at Croke Park. They've now been there. They've won 2 difficult games against Ulster opposition in the quarter-final and semi-final. They've had 3 run-outs in Croke Park this year. Is that even a factor now going into this weekend?
I don't think Croke Park is a factor on the back of. Look at 2018, as I said, we bet Kerry. We had won the Division 2 final against Kildare up there. You know, there was loads of things happening at the time. We performed very, very well against Dublin in the league final, and actually in the All Ireland semi final by the last 15 minutes. So just didn't take our chances. And again, you know, I suppose this game against Armagh leading up to the Derry match, I think Galway's efficiency in front of goal was very, very high against Armagh, which you need that to happen to win big games. And unfortunately, 2018, the semi-final, our efficiency in front of goal was shockingly poor in the first half. And if it'd been better, we could maybe take out the Dublin team in Croke Park in 2018. But the efficiency is massive, and it has been quite good for Galway in the last while. So, you know, a fit Comer, which is brilliant for Galway. You know, back over the number of years, he had a lot of bad injuries. And, you know, it's important that he stays injury-free for this big match as well. But look, at the Croke Park thing, to be honest, is that hoodoo is well and truly gone. Kerry have their own little hoodoo at the minute for winning the All-Ireland. It's only 8 years, but it's like an eternity for them down there. And even that Dublin match, I saw the way they celebrated beating the Dublin team. It was huge pressure off them because there's massive pressure down there. And again, that was a Dublin team that would not, in my opinion, wouldn't be next or near where the Dublin team was back in 2018. So, you know, to see Kerry celebrating that, was huge for them, but that wasn't, you know, a team with Conor Callahan, Paul Mannion, Jack McCaffrey, Michael Dara, you know, Phil McMahon, all gone out of it. A lot of those guys genuinely had not been replaced at the same level. So, I suppose getting over the line by 1 point against Dublin, that Dublin team missing Conor Callahan, you know, it's not massive form, but it's good form for them because they needed to get that hood off the back.
Yeah. Let's have a chat about Damien Comer then. When we look at our kind of 5 key matchups that you've picked out going into this weekend, Comer scoring the 2 goals last time out against Derry to help Galway through to the final for the first time since 2001. He's likely to go up against Foley this weekend, isn't he?
I would think so, yeah. It looks that way. But I would think, you know, look at Kerry are longer for round. Paddy Tally is down there as well. I'd expect that there will be a bit more help defence on with Foley. I thought Derry were very naive, to be honest with you. They had all the bodies back, but they just, you know, wrote an article in Examiner about it where, you know, Rogers was completely looking at Comer and he could not see when the ball was coming, which for me is technically very, very poor defending, albeit totally concentrated on the man and given the job to do. But you have to see man and see ball. And That didn't happen against Kerry. I expect that Kerry will mark that differently. I'd also think they'll have help defence a bit closer to Homer. So it's fine having all the bodies back behind the 45-metre line, but you have to know your role inside a defensive system. And I thought maybe it's part of Derry's building at the minute, but they just weren't clinical in that defending side of it. I expect Kerry to be more clinical on that. And Tally will know the threat that Comer possesses as well, particularly left 1v1. And he'll also know that if it's tightly defended and there's help defence and there's two on him, sometimes Damien, and he's obviously grown up a bit, but he may make bad decisions and try to kick when it's not on. So he's going to try and create environments that maybe will try to put Damien into what we call the ugly zone or out of his comfort zone. So I expect this to be fairly defensive.
Have you noticed a change in the collective way that Kerry have defended this year with Tally and O'Connor? Have they actually changed things around a bit? Because a lot's been made of the fact that they haven't conceded too many goal chances. It took almost a wonder strike to actually get a green flag for Dublin the last day. But generally, league and championship this year, Kerry have looked pretty safe at the back.
They have, to be fair, and they're getting the bodies back a bit more. Tyke Morley seems to be the guy that's doing the sweeping. I'm not convinced that he's the full sweeper role picked up yet. The ball is more than one kick away. It should be marking space. When it's less than a kick away from the full forward or the threat, it should be a little bit further back to protect that the full back. And I just think there's a little gap left there all the time for pop passes, the likes of John Daly, very good foot passer, to pop passes into the likes of Comer if that's not blocked up. Again, but to be fair, there's a good bit made out of for Kerry conceded and not conceded. But if you look at the Dublin team that played Cork, they didn't get a smell of a goal chance. That was without Conor Callaghan. So for me, the Dublin team up front at the minute haven't got a Paul Mannion or a Conor Callaghan who are the goal threats. And so, their forward line isn't made up of goal threats at the minute. So I'm not so sure how much that Kerry team actually tested in championship in relation to a good forward line like that will go at you. So look at it, it'll be interesting to see where they've come on Sunday.
Yeah, that's actually an intriguing side to the battle and the conversation, because I was alongside Ross Munley for the quarterfinals the round before, and we were just thinking that about Dublin and Cork, because the game had drifted, so you're almost watching Dublin to see where the movement is in the forward line in the second half. And all of their inside forwards that day looked to come back out to recycle the ball back out to the D. Now, they kicked plenty of scores and they won very comfortably, but without Con, there was nobody to go in behind. While Galway present a very different challenge where, like, Walsh and Comer are going to look to try and stretch that defence this weekend. Yeah,
but in particular Comer in the inside, where he'll turn and go at you, where Shane does a lot of his movement down the wings, and he's going to have to slightly change or something and try and get inside the man and have more of an impact, because while it's fine running and taking people on, it's the middle three lanes that counts, then 1 lane 5 in the outside is where, and that's another part where probably Dave Clifford will be. If he's the only defender, he'll do a lot of his work out on lane 5 and recycling as well if he doesn't get nearly shot. So, like, Comer is like Conor Callaghan. He puts the head down, he'll get under your hand, he'll create freeze, he will take you on at all costs if the space is there, where other forwards won't do that, and this is the first time I suppose Kerry are going to be facing a type of a threat, providing that we get the ball in there.
David Clifford, a problem to try and solve. 3 goals and 6 points when the sides met in Tralee a couple of years ago in the league. So we've seen the damage that he can do. Who picks him up?
Well, to be fair, like things have completely changed that league match. I mean, Galway at that time had spent a year and a half, I suppose, attack, and left the defensive team behind them. So they've completely changed in the last year. You can see it during the league. So they've gone back to, in a way, back where we were ourselves. And they've probably learned the lesson the hard way. So I don't expect Clifford getting a 3-6 on Sunday, even though it's a bigger pitch in Croke Park. You're going to find probably that Galway will have, if it goes the same as Derry, they'll have 15 behind the halfway line for the first half. So again, that's something I'd like to see, that they would keep at least 2 up, because we're going to need a transition to put Kerry in the back foot. It can't be just all about defending either. So I suppose it's gone from one extreme, like the match I spoke about on Kerry 2 years ago, to the other extreme now. So, we will have to put that Kerry team on the back foot as well. But I would say we have to leave two up and get the, if we have to lose a sweeper or 2, we probably don't need 3 or 4 sweepers, which we have at the minute. But just to get that balance right.
Does that mean a man marker on David Clifford, or is it more about the zonal if they're going to stop ball coming into him?
Well, to be honest, I do expect it'll be a man marker. It'll be either Liam Silk or Sean Kelly, depending on what to go with. I would guess it'll be that. So the matchup I've picked would be Liam Silk against Clifford, but it could be Sean Kelly. So it'll be that. But they'll have help defence around them. That'll be zonal. There's no doubt about that. And if they don't, it doesn't matter who's marking Clifford. If he gets easy ball and no help around there, he's going to be a massive threat. So look, it's going to be a zonal with the man-to-man there anyway. I don't expect the Galway going to go like they did 18 months ago down to Lee. That won't happen. So it will be. It'll be zonal around Clifford. Clifford will not do the Damien Comer job or the Con job where he's going to bury the head and go down and go through 2 or 3 fellas. He'll be trying to hit the point on his second step, which he's very good at. Most forwards will take 4 steps before they hit, so he can hit them 2. So it's really vital that whoever's on him does a man-marking job and that he's actually stuck to him.
Yeah, he's remarkably hard to stop. I mean, it's an obvious point, but the fact that he drifts into such kind of interesting pockets of space, he almost plays so instinctively, and we saw that at different times even against Dublin, where maybe he's gone quiet for a little while, then he drifts off into a pocket of space. We saw in the quarter-final where the one chance he got in behind, where space opened up, he puts the ball into the top corner. He's remarkably good at ghosting into good positions, isn't he?
Absolutely brilliant, absolutely. And again, even the second half against Dublin, I think he won that free, the last one. The quiet second half, but Kerry are keeping him up all the time, and they're not. He's not part of their defence. And again, that's what I'd like to see Damien Comer as well, as much as possible, or at least maybe coming out for 10 minutes and going back in, but keeping a threat up at all times. Kerry will be doing that, but I don't expect David Clifford to be given the spaces that he's been given to date. As I said at the start of this, it's going to be, I would think, very defensive, and that takes out the spaces that as a Clifford and O'Shea likes. I suppose looking from a Kerry point of view, they'll be hoping and they'll be trying to put pressure on awful early to try and get ahead, because if it's like the Derry game was, the longer that goes on, the better it is for Galway. I do believe that if Galway can be there or come down the stretch, which I think they should be, there's no reason why not. With what we spoke about, start the programme here in 2018, down the 20s, talent is coming through. But if they can be down the stretch, you saw what happened. I mean, Kerry, there's massive pressure on Kerry. They brought a man down from Tyrone. Jack O'Connor is back in there. The expectation now, if they're beating Dublin, is to absolutely win this All-Ireland. This is not a case of, we had a great year. It's not a great year now unless they win All-Ireland. So if there's 10, 15 minutes there and Kerry haven't got away from the pack, like against Dublin, it happened against Cork in 2000, Tyrone 2021. Again, last week against Dublin, when the goal came in from Dublin, it was a nervy ending. And I know they got a massive free at the end to get them out the gap. But, if that went on longer, where would it be? It's hard to know. But certainly there's nerves in there if Kerry don't get in and get ahead.
Kevin, I'm interested in your take on Cian O'Neill, because we've mentioned Paddy Talley coming into the Kerry backroom setup, and Mike Quirke, after he left Laois, went in with Jack O'Connor for this year in Kerry's a stacked backroom team. I was listening to Pádraig Joyce's comments from last week about O'Neill, and he was basically saying, look, I brought him in. This is a guy, sometimes we argue, sometimes we disagree tactically, or we disagree about things, but sometimes having that dissenting voice into your backroom team is no bad thing.
You need it. I mean, look, I've always said this, and you always hear me talking about a challenging environment. It has to be a challenging environment. I think sometimes too many management teams surround themselves with best friends or ex-footballers, and you're all of the same thinking. And you could, to evolve as a person or a coach or to learn, you have to bring people in who's going to challenge you. And it cannot be, oh, you know what, that's great, this is the way we'll do it, and we'll all take the blame together. That cannot be what it is. This has to be a challenging environment, and there's no doubt. I'm sure that's what Cian done. Cian himself would be fairly opinionated. I'd be guessing. I don't know the man very well. I spoke to him once or twice on the phone, but in fairness to him, he's steeped in trying to improve. So, he's brought, I suppose, a level of organisation. He's brought. I'd be absolutely very clear that they probably do have arguments, and they should have arguments in what to do. But things have changed since he's come in. It seems, I suppose, that the belief has kicked in there. They definitely have come back to a lot of what we're doing ourselves, albeit maybe slightly different. But now the trick for them is to find how do they stay defensively strong without using all the bodies in behind the first offensive line or defensive line, because you're taken from the top And if you take 2 people from the top for your trick transition, you're not going to put the other team on the opposite foot quick enough. So that's to find that balance. And again, you know, if you have 3 or 4 sweepers in behind your defensive line, you, as I said, you lose up front. If you take them out, you can put them on your first defensive line, and that automatically releases 2 people to go up front. So it'd be interesting to see if you can find that over the last 2 weeks.
That's Cian O'Neill trying to give you a ring right there, Kevin.
Yeah,
couple of other battles before you chat to Cian about the weekend. A veteran one here, 2 players who are now I think into their 14 seasons at senior level, in David Moran and Paul Conroy, who are likely to pick each other up.
Paul Conroy, yeah. Oh yeah, I expect so. I think Paul is 33 and David's 34 now. I'd expect that they will pick each other up. Probably Jack Barry going on to McDade. But you see, I suppose the big thing here is the high press from both teams on the kickouts. And if both teams are successful in the high press, that means the ball is going to go long. So you're going to have an aerial battle. And sometimes in a lot of GA today, you don't see that much because it's quick kick out after kick out. So a Galway against Derry, they had 5 and 4 up in the front full forward line and 3 or 4 in behind that. They had 9 up in the front field, which means, you know, they were actively pushing Derry to put that ball out long at all costs. You know, will Kerry will have done their homework on that? Will they overload one side instead of running around like Derry done and get the bodies on one side to negate some of the front push? All that type of stuff, I suppose, I presume Kerry will be looking at to negate that type of stuff. But, you know, if that is the case, the aerial battle will be massive between Moran and Conroy. And, you know, look, it's hard to know who'll get the better of that one. I mean, Dave Moran would have always been a big fielder. And I suppose Kerry would be hoping that he'll have the strength in that.
And the final battle that you've picked out is Shane Walsh, who we mentioned has been the danger man, the top scorer for Galway this year, up against Tom O'Sullivan.
Yeah, and anytime we were there before, Tom O'Sullivan actually picked up Shane all the time. So I'd be fairly sure that's what will happen. Look, maybe they may turn around the day and say, well, you know what, Tom, we'll put you on someone else because you've been scoring 2 and 3 points yourself and we'll release you. Maybe they might do that. But I expect that they'll put him on Shane Walsh and just to give him full attention, because same happening against Kerry. Young McCluskey was brilliant against Shane and that game, kept Shane out of the game. The Armagh guys was a little bit different. There was a bit of, I suppose, more attention off the ball than what McCluskey gave. But I suppose Shane has to find a way, and his teammates have got to help him find a way to get into this final and, you know, make a huge impact on Croke Park, because Shane is top scorer. His impact hasn't been as high as he'd like in the last 2 or 3 games. So I presume that's something Pádraig will be working on very hard to try and get Shane released a little bit, because we know what he can do if he gets open space, but we also know that if he's kept quiet, that he may get a little bit frustrated. So that's important to get Shane into the game fairly quickly. And again, maybe give him his 10 minutes inside up front and let Damien back for 5 minutes. But you always try and keep one of those 2 danger guys up front. Is really, really important.
Yeah, some really key battles this weekend. Kevin, enjoy the game on Sunday.
Welcome, guys. Thanks, man.
That's former Galway boss Kevin Walsh.